And in this new series, Vibrant Music Teacher Chats. It is so wonderful to be back with you again. I hope you're having a wonderful Wednesday. Before we kick off with some tips and advice, I wanted to let you know about the schedule for catching these slots live. This is a new thing that we're starting as we're all on quarantine and we need a bit of extra support and some advice for online teaching, and also hopefully a little bit of fun as well into our day. So I'm going to be doing these 3 times a week. The schedule is going to be this. Now this depends on your time zone. So if you are subscribed to emails from us, the email today that went out that gave you a link to this live broadcast also gave you links to look up when these are in your time zone. Okay, so my advice is to look in that email, but these are the times in Dublin. So if you want to look it up yourself, you can do that. These are the times in Dublin. I'm not going to go into all the time zones here because I will make a mistake and confuse everyone. Okay, so the links are in the email, but you can look them up there. That is going to be going forward for the foreseeable future. We're going to be doing Mondays at 2, Wednesdays at 3, and Fridays at 2 again. Okay, just for a bit of fun. So that's going to be early-ish in the US, and it's going to be this time in Europe, and it's going to be quite late in Australia, maybe just about early enough to catch those over in Perth, but for those in Melbourne and Sydney, it's going to be a bit too far, right? Let me know how you're all going today and what questions you have for me. It's great to see a few of you joining in live already. Great to have you here. I am happy to take your questions on these chats. That's really what they're all about, but I will have some content prepared for you each day, or a special guest, or something fun. So today is going to be about a few sort of camera tips. I don't consider myself a pro. I'm sure you can point out many mistakes that I make in terms of talking to camera, but I do it quite a bit. And it's something where a lot of teachers have had to get into this who haven't had to do this before, who aren't particularly interested in speaking on camera, but that is what you're all doing now, even if it's not on YouTube, right? Even if it's just in the context of a one-on-one lesson, you are speaking to a camera now instead of a person. And it is different, right? So there's a few trips? That should be a new word. Tips and tricks. Trips. Let's call it trips from now on. So there's a few tricks I want to share with you guys today about how we talk to camera. But I'm happy to also take your questions live, as I've said. Colin, doesn't matter if your questions aren't camera related, don't worry about it. So I'm going to go back through the questions and I'll take them as they come in, and it's quite a casual type of a format, different to how we do it on webinars and stuff, and I'm enjoying it so far. I hope you guys are too. Few of you who I've seen already on yesterday's one and today's one, so you came back for more, so that's a good sign, right? Awesome. So questions are welcome in these sessions from anything to do with teaching, business, online teaching, technology, anything you think I might be able to help you with, I'm happy to give it a go, okay? So in these sessions, I'm going to be sharing some tips, as I said, and I'm going to get into those in a second for today's session, but I'm also happy to take your suggestions for what we should talk about in future sessions. So if you missed the very start, this is going to be our schedule in Irish time, UK time. That's what it is. You can look up what it is for you. And I'm going to be doing those going forward Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So I'm happy to take your suggestions for topics and or guests that I might be able to bring on if I can work it out based on their time zone and mine and both of our teaching schedules, right? Depends on a few factors there. Yeah, okay. So into these tips, right? Sorry, I've just seen this comment come through which made me giggle. Hi, fabulous Nicola. Hi to you, Clemency. What a lovely epitaph. What's the opposite of an epitaph? An epitaph is the end. Anyway, whatever goes before your name. That's a lovely thing to be adding to my name, fabulous Nicola. Thank you very much. So as I said, a lot of us are speaking on camera now, whether we want to or not. That is what we're all doing in online lessons. And so I wanted to give you a few tips in terms of how you can do that best. So the first thing I want to mention is where the light goes. The light should be in front of you, not in front of the camera, okay? So you might notice that behind me here, there is a blind, right? It's closed. My little office here, this is in the garden. So that's a door to the back garden. It's all glass. When I have it open, which you may have seen on some videos, I don't always bother to close it, but when I have it open, the blind open, that means I'm kind of weird edged and it's not super clear, the image, because the light is behind me, in front of the camera behind me. We don't want that. We want it behind the camera, in front of you, so that the light is coming onto your face. Makes sense, right? But it's not something you think about until you start going on camera and start doing these things. So I have the light in front of me now, and a little bit to the side, that's fine. If you can organize yourself that a window is in the right spot for that, great, that's the best option. But we all have pianos, and they're not the easiest things to move, right? So if you can't move your computer and your piano and stuff like that in order to have a window in front or slightly to the side of you, then get some lights, basically, and put them behind the camera. It will make an enormous difference in terms of how easily people can see you. Same goes for on the keyboard. You want it behind the camera, casting light down onto the keyboard so that people can see what you're playing, right? The second tip I was a bit reluctant to put in here because it's become a bit of a thing that people say when they watch my videos, which is about my smile. I get a lot of comments about my smile and I'm a bit awkward about it right now because, well, it's not that I feel awkward about it. I'm happy to smile for people and I'm happy to be known as a happy person, right? Because I am. But I don't want you to think that I'm like putting on a show, I guess. Because I'm not. When I'm smiling this much and I'm laughing to myself, that's just how I talk. But I do it more for a camera. Instinctively, I think, actually. And it's because I'm imagining that I'm talking to someone. One of you. And that's how I talk to people, is I smile like this and right? And you probably do that when you're talking to your students. But it's really easy to get yourself in the mode of switching it off when you don't have a person. And so a great tip is just to imagine that that person is there, right? You don't get the same vibe through a video. If you have your student on the screen and all of that, it doesn't feel the same. But it's even more important that you smile when you're talking to someone like this, because they're even closer to your face. Emily who's on the top music team, she pointed this out, which is a really good point. They're even closer to your face, right? It's more face to face than you would be. If you were teaching someone, you'd be back here. But you're not. You're probably closer to the camera than you normally are to your student. And so they're looking really intensely at your face. Also, they don't have anything else to go on. They just have this little screen. You have to imagine the way it's coming through to them. And so that smile becomes really, really important. And yes, you can use tricks like I showed you yesterday. You can play these little videos and that can be super fun. Like that, right? And that helps to show your enthusiasm, but you also need that smile. Wow, lots of questions coming through. I'm going to get to all of these in a second, guys. If you have questions about the specific stuff I'm talking about, I will get to them as we flow through here, okay? So, that's my second tip. I can count. Third tip is about looking. We had a question about this in a top music webinar that we did recently, and I thought it was great from a member there, about where do I look? And it sounds silly, but here's the thing. If I have Zoom open on my screen, right, I'm going to imagine it's open now, it's not. It would be down there. And so if I look at my student, I'm looking down there. Much like I look when I glance at you guys' comments, I'm looking down here. And it doesn't look great, does it? It doesn't look like I'm talking to you right now. It looks like I'm distracted by something else. Doesn't it? You can let me know if this looks weird to you or not. Now I'm going back to the camera. This is how I normally do these videos, and I spend the majority of time looking this direction, at the camera, which when you first start, feels pretty weird. because you're just looking into this tiny little dot. But that's what you need to do in order to be looking eye to eye with your student. Now, sometimes you need to be looking at them and it's fine to look back and forth. But when you're directing something at them and you really want to get their attention, like we were talking about yesterday, you want to look into the camera, into the lens. And it really does make a big difference in terms of how they can connect with you. I don't know if you guys have found that tricky or if you found it instinctive that you look into the camera, but it's definitely a weird thing for a lot of people to get used to in terms of where you're actually looking most of the time, right? I like to imagine it's an eye, by the way, if that helps you. If you actually imagine you're looking into someone's eyes, that is what you're doing when you're looking into the camera. Nice. Okay. My fourth tip. Got 2 more left. Surprise. So we were talking about this as well yesterday a little bit in terms of keeping students' attention. So especially young students, it's great to have a few surprises prepared so that you can capture their attention and keep their attention whenever you need to. So a lot of members have been using the Silliness Siesta cards for this, which is great fun. Really, really good for getting students up and wiggling and getting those breaks in. But also preparing little surprises like that video I showed you a second ago, or I've been doing this crazy thing called a surprise starter. Did I show you this yesterday? Oh, I think I did. Yeah, I did. Won't go into it too much now. You guys can check it out if you missed it yesterday. But it's a great way just to liven things up, keep things interesting, keep my students' attention. So preparing little things like that, games, activities where you can capture your students' attention, and also just silly things like in Zoom. I won't do it here because it doesn't work well through Ecamm without a green screen, but in Zoom you can have a virtual background, you can have those videos that you pop in. Any little surprises like that are really, really important when it comes to online lessons, because it's not a huge real estate that you're taking up, right? You're on a screen, it's only so big. It's maybe this size on an iPad or this size if you're lucky and they have a laptop. It's hard to keep a student's attention with you coming through just at that size. And I think it's important to be aware of how you're coming through to them as well. So surprises become really important. And my last tip is about interruptions. So 2 sides to this. First tip is don't interrupt, and the second tip is interrupt forcefully. Let me explain. When you're talking, as I often am, on a Zoom interview or a video call interview, right? One thing that I learned early on through doing podcast interviews and stuff like that was not to interrupt as much as you do in person. Again, this might sound like something obvious, but let me know if it's not been so obvious for you and you've had to learn it. So, resisting the urge to go, yeah, great, good, all those little sounds, they are not helpful in a video call. Because it's going to switch, on Zoom it might switch the camera back and forth if you're too loud or you say something slightly longer. With that auto feature, but even if you're not using that kind of feature, it just, interruptions like that do not work well on a video call. Have you found that? I certainly have. And so I've trained myself to not do that, to not make those little encouragement noises all the time that people naturally do when they're speaking. However, having said that, when you are interrupting, really interrupt. So if your student is playing a piece and like they've done something ridiculous, like they've or not even ridiculous, but just something that it's going to disrupt the rest of the piece. So they've started a new piece and you warned them to notice the clef, but they didn't. And so they've started playing it with the left hand in the bass clef and the right hand in the treble clef, but they're both in the treble clef, right? So the whole thing is sounding like nonsense, and you know that they're going to keep going for the whole piece like that. They're not even going to notice because they're not particularly paying attention to what they're listening to. So if that kind of thing happens, you need to interrupt quite forcefully in a way that you wouldn't do in person. You're not going to say, "Oh, whoops, Emma, you just stop for a second," and then take them back to the start. No, you're going to have to quite specifically say, "Hey, hey, hey," you know? You're going to have to say their name a few times. "Emma, Emma, Emma," until you get them. And then say, "Okay, no, can we start again because XYZ." So those are my 5 tips. Light in front of you, not behind you. Smile more than you think is necessary because it is really important in order to get things across, your enthusiasm across through a little screen. Look at the camera. Don't look down at the student. Surprise them if you can. Little surprise and delights. And don't interrupt unless you really mean to interrupt, and then do it quite specifically and loudly. Okay? I hope you find those tips useful. Let me know your tips that you found, things that you found worked a bit differently in a video call, in the chat, and I'm going to check in with our questions now in the chat. Okay, here's Colin. Great to see you back here again, Colin. Quick question. How do you deal with sight reading exercises in the online lessons? Okay, question back to you, Colin, which is, are we talking about sight reading exercises that they have, or are you trying to give them sight reading exercises? So if it's a book or a set that they have, and you have a copy of it too, then it's the same as most reading work, right? So you're going to ask them to look through it, prepare, you have it in front of you, and then you let them give it a go and you give them some feedback, and then they try it maybe one more time. That's how I do sight reading exercises generally. Now, if it's a case that they have the book and you don't, you're not going to be able to check what they're doing. So for older students, I've actually just been saying to them, listen, I don't think that's the best use of our time. I'm going to put the responsibility on you to keep up with those exercises and let me know if you have questions about them. Okay, so I leave it on their assignment sheet. I kind of put it onto them to say, you know you need to keep up with these. You know why it's important to you and that it's a part of your goals. And so I'm going to leave it with you to keep up with them and let me know if you have any questions. That'll work for your more advanced students. And then if they don't have the music yet, you're going to need to send it through to them. And yeah, that's a different story. But let me know if that helps, Colin, or if you've further follow-up questions there. Broken chords. Is it wise to advertise lessons even though we're under quarantine, especially since they're online lessons? Nothing unwise about advertising lessons. I've had several inquiries come through to me at the moment, even though my website form is not working correctly right now. We all have glitches from time to time, but yeah, I've had a few come through to me saying, are you taking on new students? I would love to get started with online lessons. So definitely, I think there's an opportunity there because people are stuck at home. Some people are off work, right? Some people have extra time right now. I don't. You guys probably don't, but they do. So it's a great idea to advertise lessons. Nothing unwise about it at all. You have to change your messaging a little bit to make it make sense, but I think it's a great thing to be doing if you have some open spots. Similar question there from Emily. Okay, so this is something you guys definitely want to hear more about. Do you have any tips for advertising lessons right now? All my students have dropped as of end of March because of financial reasons due to COVID-19. All your students, Emily. I'm so sorry to hear that. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, the good news is the world is your oyster. So you can literally, if you're teaching online lessons, you can literally branch out to anywhere. So my tips would be the same as they always are, and this is even more true in the current situation. Get your website up. If it's not currently optimized, optimize it. If it doesn't exist, make it exist. And we're going to have resources coming out soonish in Vibrant Music Teaching for that, but don't wait for me, I would say, on that front, Emily, if you're lacking students right now. Get your website up and running. Use WordPress if you can. It's the most widely, so the most optimized, and it's going to be the best for search and all of that stuff. Make sure you've got your Facebook page game up and running, and that you're using Instagram if you're up for doing that, and that you're listed on Google My Business. Oh, tip on Google My Business. They have automatically indicated that a lot of businesses are closed if you haven't updated them. So you have to go into Google My Business. This is just a quick aside. If you're using it, and just make sure to set it that, like, no, I am open. Because otherwise they're going to make it look like you're closed due to COVID-19, even if you haven't told them that you are. So it's a great time for optimizing your online marketing game and getting that up and running. Let me know if you have follow-up questions on that, Emily, but that's a general overview. Have I heard of My Music Staff? What do I think about it? My Music Staff is Fabaruni. I am using it myself. I have a review on Colourful Keys about it and some of my favourite features of it. So if you search for Colourful Keys My Music Staff, that will show up for you. And that's a blog article we did a little while ago. Laurie, what kind of light do I have? Okay, let me see if I can get you a view of it, Laurie. I think I can just about turn around the camera far enough. You ready? We're going to go on a tour of the messy side of the studio. No, I can't get it far enough. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just tell you about it. Could I flip that? I can't. No, I can't get you a view. Sorry. So I have a camera lighting kit, and they're basically like, they're big poles. Think like a camera tripod. So they're like big poles, and then they have a light bulb at the top and like a white tent thing, like an umbrella around it. Can you visualize that? Have you seen those before? You see them in photography studios and stuff. So that's what I have. I have two of those. One is there, so kind of there, and one is over there. I have those two. When I'm recording videos and I want a bit of a better setup, I have a third one that goes close to my face. But right now I don't have that. But I also have a window there. So you see I have 1, 2, 3. So they're kind of making a little lovely straight ahead-ish, or almost straight ahead, and then over there, and then over there. So there's those 3 lights. So if that lighting looks good to you, it looks pretty fine to me, right? I'm well lit. I'm not going for anything fancy when I do videos like this. Just simple clarity. So that's the way I have it set up. And that's a photography lighting kit. You get them on Amazon for like $50, something like that. 50, maybe $70. I don't know in dollars, because I would have bought them in euro. But the thing about those is that they are white bulbs. So they're not like regular lights that you have around your house, because those are yellow bulbs. The reason we use yellow bulbs around the house is because when it's nighttime, we don't want to wake up our whole system with daylight looking things. You know, you might have heard this about screens and like not using screens before bed. It's because we've got that blue light coming off screens. The same thing is true of the white light you get off photography lights. And so lights we have around the house are yellow to mimic candles so that we can still go to sleep at night. Okay? That's a general gist understanding of it. The photography lights are meant to mimic daylight, so they are white. That's the difference there, so they do look a little bit better. However, since webcams and a lot of photography equipment and stuff like that is not available on Amazon right now, or the prices have gone crazy for them, I don't suggest you pick up one of those lighting kits. Just get regular lights and put them dotted around you. It's still going to make a big difference, even if they're yellow bulbs. But if you can get a white bulb, it will make that little bit more of a difference. Hope that answers your question, Laurie. Let me see. Clemency, you tried the camera upside down earlier for some standing piano work. Not good. Yeah, mine is flipped. It's just literally swiveled around. So if you can do that with whatever way you had your camera set up, you just need to flip it. Otherwise, you can do it on screen, but that's a little bit more complicated than just turning it around, in my view. Emily, when I was teaching online, I had problems with my students' internet. That's also part of the reason we had to discontinue, because they were freezing up the whole time and I couldn't hear them. Yeah, I have tips on the channel for helping parents get set up. So if you do get new students or your students want to give it another go or anything like that, Emily, send them through that info. It is all there for you. But if they have really bad internet, there's nothing you can do in terms of fixing it. Like, if you can't improve the internet quality, you just can't do anything about that. You can't magically make internet work that is not working. So I would suggest opting for video lessons if that's the issue. Yeah, great tips back to Emily there from some of you guys in the chat. That's awesome. Okay, nice. Lots of tips you guys are adding. This is awesome. If you guys have any more questions, please add them in the chat. I've got a few more minutes to spare, so I'll get through. I think I'll get through everyone in the chat here, which is great. Lynette, glad these tips have been useful for you. That's awesome. Week 4 of teaching online. I am actually the same. Week 4. This is my 4th week because I had a 2-week break in the middle. So it's actually quite a lot longer than that in terms of how long we've been on lockdown. But it's my 4th official online teaching week. Huge adjustments, yes, all around. It's exhausting, but it's great to see them learning and continuing. I absolutely agree with you, Lynette. It's wonderful to be able to keep these things going. Colin, that's hilarious. Wouldn't have predicted that was where you were coming from. Give them sight reading. I don't want them to having it before the lesson because they'll all cheat. I can't believe they would be bothered cheating. My students are not that industrious when it comes to sight reading. They would not volunteer to prepare it ahead of time. So that's hilarious. Colin, in that case, I would suggest if they have a big enough screen rather, that you just show it on screen. Make them sight read it off the screen. We've been doing that in my practice with PAL sessions, which are a new thing. I won't bore you with, not bore change the page settings. In MuseScore, you just go to page settings, enlarge the staff size, and then export it as a PDF, and you can show it on your screen. That would be one way to do it. Linda, when do I start New Year goals, and how am I handling that online? So New Year's goals would be a bit out for me. We go up until the end of June in my studio. So that's, sorry to break it to those of you who haven't thought it's going to be this long, but that's likely to be all online from my, or at least that's what I'm banking on, is that actually we're online until the end of the academic year. And so, yeah, when we get into June, we will be setting goals for the next year, the following year, before our summer break. And I'll be following a similar process to how I do it usually, which is following a simple form and filling it in together. I'll do that on my screen so they can see what's going on and what I'm typing. So the main difference is just I'm not writing and they're not handwriting. I'm typing, or they're typing if they're a bit older and they can handle the tech of setting that up. But probably I'll do the typing for most of those. And yeah, it'll be a similar process. If you're curious about that process, you can Google, you can search. Linda, I think you might be a member. If you are, you can find the end of year, what did I call it? Student self-assessment template in the library. If not, you can Google that and you might find the resource on the blog. Clemency, absolutely. How about offering lockdown lessons to people on our waiting list? I've had several take it up. Yeah, if you have the time. I don't have spare time. I'm teaching the same amount of students and I'm doing a whole bunch of other stuff and it's taking extra planning. But if you have open spots or you would love to use up your daytime hours where you haven't been able to before but now they're homeschooled, I think that's great. Great option to do. Awesome idea, Colin. Things to do with my waiting list was thinking about running an hour on Zoom where everyone could join if they have questions or are stuck on what to do. Yeah, great idea. Great time to use this type of stuff. Laurie, no, the light bulbs do not hurt my eyes. Well, especially during the day. So it's already daylight. I've turned them on for this video just to give that extra wash of light to make things super clear for you guys. They don't hurt my eyes. They are definitely very bright. And so at night you would notice that, how bright they are. However, they don't hurt my eyes any more than regular lights would, no. Because they have the umbrella-like tent around them, which is white, that light is blurred. So they definitely are very bright when they don't have that around them, when they don't have the lampshade thing. But no, I don't find it hurt my eyes. I do find that if I'm doing something like a webinar late in the evening, I'll have more trouble getting to sleep for sure. So when I'm doing something with Tim, who's over in Australia, and I have to be up late for it, I definitely get a late night. Like I can't get to bed at my normal super early granny like time for my bedtime because I normally go to bed early, and I can't get to sleep that early. That's probably a combination of things, though. I doubt it's just from the daylight lights. It's also from just interacting with people that late and staying sort of up energy level wise. Colin, he says, my head is shiny in bright lights, need foundation. I don't find it's shinier. So my face gets very shiny in my nose and stuff, and people, sometimes I look like Rudolph, but it's actually better in daylight lights. I find that happens more with yellow lights. Colin, touch up my appearance in Zoom. Yeah. Linda, that's a good tip. Although, really, that just blurs. But that would help with the shininess. What it seems to do is just blur to try and minimize pores. Anyway. That is great. Oh, a couple more questions. Sorry, I'll get to these and then we're going to wrap it up for today. Guys, thank you all so much for being here. I hope it's been valuable for you. Kevin, great to see you here. Kevin says, which programs do you use to show virtual keyboard screen on live call? Okay, cool. So I don't have it open right now. Let me see if I can quickly open that up for you so I can show you. Yes, I can. Ta-da! Classroom Maestro is the name of that app. It's currently half price, because they're trying to help people out who are teaching online during COVID-19. So that's great. If you Google Classroom Maestro, you should find it. Their website is timewarptech.com. If you're looking for that. Also just the overhead view of the keyboard works great as well. But if you're looking for that virtual keyboard, that's what that is. For most people who are doing that, that's what they're using. Emily, anyone else sweat like mad and get nervous before their first online lesson a few weeks ago? It was nerve-wracking. Absolutely. Anything new, Emily, is going to feel like that. But it makes us remember we're alive, right? So sometimes we have to push ourselves out of our comfort zones, and yeah, it can take a lot. It's tiring. Make sure you allow yourself time to decompress afterwards, but these things do get easier. Oh, I hear you on this. Studio Yoshi, absolutely. I have a backache now. How are you making sure you don't develop bad posture? I haven't been getting backaches, but I'm definitely not enjoying sitting for this much of the day. And if you're feeling that too, I hear you on it. In a studio, I can get up and move around. I can't do that. I don't have a space that would work where I could have a standing desk, for example, and then a sitting keyboard or something like that. I've thought about it, though, because it would be so nice to be able to get up and move around. I'm just making sure that when I have those few minutes in between, like where I have my short breaks in between teaching, that I get up and I stretch, do some jumping jacks, move about a bit. And then during the day, I'm making sure, okay, normally I would be hanging out in my office a little bit more of the day, doing vibrant music teaching stuff. I'm making sure that in the middle of that, I get a walk outside, because I'm just at the computer even more of my day than I usually would be. But yeah, in terms of backaches, yoga. I used to get terrible back pains, and this is nothing to do with teaching or anything like that, or online teaching, but yeah, I used to have a lot of back pain, and yoga has been the thing for me. So if that helps you, give it a go. Yeah, Julie. So Julie, I don't know if you've seen this inside the VMT Member Clubhouse group, if you're a member, but you can play games on Zoom using screen share. So because members of, sorry, I'm talking in circles a little bit there. Kurt, who's a member, had this great idea to put it into PowerPoint, and I've been experimenting with this too, which has been awesome. So he's put these together. So check out the VMT Member Clubhouse if you are a member, Julie. But that's one sort of hack to do it, and we're experimenting with that within the VMT team as well, to get some of the games into Google Slides so we can animate the cards and use them that way. If you can't do that, or it just sounds overwhelming to you right now, Sarah, who's our content manager on VMT and also a fantastic, fabulous teacher, she has simply got a magnetic whiteboard, right, beside her, and then she's stuck the game board on the magnetic whiteboard, so stuck it up with magnets, and then she uses the magnets to move around as counters, and then she just holds the cards up. So she's just using her printed games, but she has them on that magnetic whiteboard just so that they stay up. You could also use like a cork board or just tape it to the wall, right? It just makes it a bit easier to navigate rather than having an overhead cam. So that's another way to do it. Oh my gosh. You guys are awesome. I'm sorry if I missed any of your questions. It has been so fun to hang out with you again. Before I go, I just want to let you know when we're doing the next ones of these and all of that good stuff. So this is our schedule. That is in my time. I am in Dublin, Ireland, so I'm in GMT. If you are up for joining us, look up when those times are in your time zone, or check out the email. So if you're subscribed to the email from Colourful Keys, Vibrant Music Teaching, you will have got an email to show up here, right? So if you look in that, I've left you links to a time zone converter to make things easy. These are the sessions we're going to be doing on an ongoing basis going forward until I feel like stopping, or until we're all out of quarantine. And hopefully it's going to be fun. I'm going to have tips to share with you. Hopefully I'm going to have some guests. It's going to be really fun to run these sessions. And I love hanging out with you guys and answering your questions. So come along prepared with questions and ready to learn some things and get some inspiration and hang out for a bit. I hope you can make it. The other thing I wanted to let you know is if you're not a member, here's your coupon that you can get a 1-week trial right now for Vibrant Music Teaching for just $1. So if you need access to resources, online versions of games, that kind of stuff, then you can get them inside VMT. Don't want you to be missing out on resources that you need right now, which is why we've made that coupon available to you guys. So $1 for 1 week, cancel and you won't be charged again. Keep it up and it's $25 a month. That's our regular price, and it's amazing value. I think members would agree, for everything inside Vibrant Music Teaching. Absolutely everything included all the time. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's been wonderful to hang out, and I hope to see you on another one of these. Bye for now, guys.